Hi, this is just a quick video to show you how you can use the tools in Microsoft Word to annotate a reading. Keep in mind, before you begin any annotations, you do want to do a read-through of the entire text first so that you can get a feel for what the text is all about. Then you want to go through with your pen, pencil, highlighter, and do your annotations. So the first thing I always take a look at is I like to number my paragraphs. I find it much easier to discuss the text in class when the paragraphs are numbered. So I'm just going to do a couple paragraphs as an example. So once I have my paragraphs numbered, then I'm going to start my annotations. And Microsoft Word makes it extremely easy because you can choose the highlighter function up at the top. So this is about the danger of a single story. So those are my keywords in my title. And I know that with titles, often that does give me some indication of the main idea. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. And then because I have some comments on that, I'm going to highlight, I'm going to select the text, and then I'm going to go up to Insert, and I'm going to insert a comment, and that will bring up the comment function on the side of Microsoft Word. So I'm going to write, this may indicate the main idea of the text, just looking at that title. So then I'm going to begin reading. I've already read this through once. So I'm a storyteller, and I'd like to tell you a few personal stories about what I like to call, quote, the danger of the single story. So right away, I can see that this is going to echo the title. So this definitely has to be something to do with the main idea. So what I'm interested in, what does she mean by danger? So why is it dangerous? So again, I've read this already, so I do have an indication of what this is about. But again, the purpose of annotation is so that we can do a deeper dive into the text. So I grew up on a university campus in eastern Nigeria. My mother says that I started reading at the age of 2, although I think 4 is probably close to the truth. So I was an early reader, and what I read were British and American books. So she read British and American books. I'm going to go with primarily white characters in my thought, but she grew up in eastern Nigeria on the continent of Africa. So there's a bit of a difference between who the writer grew up, and what she read as a kid. So paragraph 2, I was also an early writer, and when I began to write at about the age of 7, stories and pencils with crayon illustrations that my poor mother was obligated to read, I wrote exactly the kind of books I was reading. All my characters were white and blue-eyed. They played in the snow, they ate apples, and they talked a lot about the weather and how lovely it was that the sun had come out. Now, this, despite the fact I lived in Nigeria. I had never been outside of Nigeria. We didn't have snow, we ate mangoes, and we never talked about the weather because there was no need to. So again, one of the benefits of having read this through completely is my suspicions are confirmed. She explains the conflict between her life and those of the characters she wrote about. My characters also drank a lot of ginger beer because the characters in the British books I read drank ginger beer. Never mind, I had no idea of what ginger beer was. And for many years afterwards, I would have a desperate desire to taste ginger beer, but that is another story. What this demonstrates, I think, is how impressionable and vulnerable we are in the face of a story, particularly as children. Because all I had read were books in which the characters were foreign, I had become convinced that books, by their very nature, had to have foreigners in them and had to be about things with which I could not personally identify. Now things changed when I discovered African books. There weren't many of them available, and they weren't quite as easy to find as the foreign books. So here, she explains the point of her little story. So as I went through and annotated the first couple of paragraphs here, really I'm using my comment feature to just kind of record those thoughts that are going through my head. And the one thing I did want to go back and highlight is I do want to go back and highlight this danger of a single story. Because now that I've started to read this, I have a feeling that this text is going to give me a series of small stories about why a single story is dangerous. So this first anecdote in paragraphs 2, 3, and 4 about her characters and ginger beer is this disconnect, explaining this disconnect. So I'm assuming she's going to continue telling little snippets of her life and her experience that illustrate the idea of the danger of a single story. So as I annotate, because I've already read the text through once, as I annotate, now I really want to hone in on how she's building her meaning. Other things you'll want to pay attention to, language, interesting turns of phrase. You'll want to pay attention to words that you don't know or understand and see if you can use the context clues to figure it out. And you want to kind of keep track of what's happening, almost like a short little summary out in the margins sometimes works for that as well. So as you are annotating this text, you can print it out, you can write on it, or you can use the tools available in Microsoft Word to annotate as well. Thank you.